Alrighty. Is it live? Is it happening? We're just going to go right into the presentation to get rid of all of those
windows
because there are so many. And I'll get this open so that way we can kind of... and we'll start at the end, right? So before we get into that, let's go way back. You get a preview of all the slides we'll be going through today.
You can read really, really, really fast.
Yeah, speed reading. Make sure you call me. That's still important, whether it's the beginning or end of the slideshow.
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, I'm excited to see who we have come through. Unfortunately, because we have this full screen, we won't be able to see who's commenting or anything for a second.
Right.
Unless we see it somewhere else. Maybe yours can.
But I might be able to bring it up.
Fantastic.
So I'll let you start.
Okay. Well, I'm Raquel, the Realtor. I'm very excited to be here with Katie from Metro. We are doing this because we just had our event, Buying a Home 101 here. We have a fantastic spread also for those of you who didn't make it. We have like mango, strawberry, raspberry, bagels, yogurt, danishes, fresh coffee. I mean, it's like the works. So if you missed out, we're going to be scheduling another one of these in the upcoming months, and we'll probably make it more of a consistent thing. So stay tuned. But
yes.
This is kind of where we're beginning.
Yeah. So, I mean, we had some really great questions during the event, so we kind of wanted to just pop on here and just do like a brief overview of what we went over in case anybody else has any questions that wasn't able to make it today.
Yeah. And I think, too, also, I know this time of year, it can be hard to get up off the couch if it's a little dull outside like it is today. So no worries if you didn't make it in because you're like, my couch is way too comfortable. That's another reason why we're doing this. So we're going to go through these slides real quick and kind of talk over what it means to buy a home, the process from, contacting one of us to get started to getting the keys, right? So we'll start going through that. First off, if you haven't met me yet or, in person, I'm Raquel. I have a lot of experience when it comes to communication and customer service. I worked in timeshare where I did title work for quite a while, and I'm also a yoga teacher and meditation and sound healer. So I find it really important to communicate very well, to keep everybody calm and at ease. And because of that, my thoughts and my actions are really driven by the desire to facilitate these big life-changing experiences and make it really easy peasy. So that's a little bit about me.
And I'm Katie. I've been in finance for quite a few years. I love being a mortgage lender, and I like spending time with my kids and being outside. I love to kayak, and
that's that. And she's a fantastic lender. One of the things I appreciate about Katie is anytime we've had a mutual client where we're working together on a process, she is very good about communication and being very quick to respond, especially when we get into the thick of it, which we'll go over here. It's so important to be fast responding, really on the ball. So that's why I'm doing this with her, because she is one of my absolute favorites. Why are we doing this? Again, one of the reasons is because we just see such a need for understanding of the process of buying a home. You can get like analysis paralysis when you go, where do I begin? It can get hard to just start when you don't know where to start. It can be very overwhelming, especially with a big life-changing experience like buying your first home or your second home, whatever it might be. And especially between us, we find so much value in communication that's why, again, we want to do something like this where we're communicating with you, even if you're not right here with us eating breakfast.
And if you guys have any questions that we don't answer, because we are just going to kind of go through this a little bit quicker than we did today or earlier this morning, don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us.
Absolutely. In the comments, feel free to leave anything or message either of us directly. We are happy to help at all times. So what are we going to go over today in our little run through? So we have the pre-qualification process, ways to heal or increase your credit score. I know that could be a little challenging for people. Introduction to the loan programs and knowledge about those programs. The do's and don'ts of the loan process, setting expectations for home searching, because that could be a challenge. We all want a 10-bedroom house on a lake with 100 acres we need to get a little realistic sometimes. And then we have the fun part, actually going out house hunting, seeing the places, getting inside and finding the one for you. Once we get under contract, understanding the contract execution and the timeline of that, and then also what happens after closing, because just because we have sold you the house and you're in there doesn't mean that the job is over. There's a lot of stuff we do on the back end afterwards to keep you in the know, to give you help when you need it, and we're going to go over that too. So we'll start off with the first part, the pre-qualification process.
No, not that my part isn't fun.
It is fun. It is fun. It's great.
So, I mean, the beginning of the mortgage process is really filling out the application, and we will ask for like a couple of documents, but what we really look at is we look at your income, your expenses, your credit score, your current debt, which would, go into the expenses, and really just kind of getting an overview of everything financially for you. And we will ask questions, we do ask for some information, but, it's all for a very good reason.
Absolutely. Well, if you don't know where you're at, how do we know where to go from there, right?
So we would just kind of have you guys fill out the loan application. We would gather income and asset documentation. I do, kind of the asset and income documentation is a little bit different per borrower.
Right.
Depends on what your income is, if you're Social Security, if you're W-2 income. We get a copy of your ID. And then once we have all of those things, your documentation, your application, then what we do is we review everything. We go over everything, and then after we have gone over, we would reach out to you just to kind of discuss the loan programs that you qualify for.
Right. Woo! As I'm almost spilling my coffee.
Don't do that.
It's what I do.
So there's a lot of different loan programs, but the most common that you're going to see are conventional, FHA, rural development, MSHDA, and VA. So, I mean, we do offer quite a few more loan programs, but for the basic beginning home buyer, those would be the most common that we would look at to try and get you into.
Yeah. Lots of different options, which is great because knowing those options is very integral to the home search. So it's good to know these things in advance.
Yep, and then, I mean, there's a lot of different factors that go into those programs as well, but we would go over those, after we get your initial information.
Right, absolutely.
There's multiple different things that would affect your credit score. Credit score is huge when it comes to getting a mortgage. Each loan program has a minimum credit score requirement, which is something that we look at also. Your utilization of your credit, when the credit card companies report to the credit bureau, any derogatory credit on there, any inquiries, collections, late pays. Now, inquiries, they don't have a huge impact on your credit score, but if you go to, say, a car dealer and, they run your credit and see, which institution is going to give you the best loan, you might have like 6 or 7 inquiries on there.
Right.
And then at that point, that might
bring your credit down a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. So that's why inquiries is on
less
there.
is more in that instance.
Yes. Yep. Some do's and don'ts. Do pay down your credit card debt. That's that utilization. Save money, remain calm.
Yeah.
And respond in a timely fashion. Don't close accounts. So while we can look at paying down your utilization, paying down your credit cards, if you close that credit card once it's down to 0, or if you can get it down to 0, it will actually negatively impact your credit score. Don't open any new credit cards or any new loans. Don't panic.
Yeah, do not panic. It's all going to be fine.
Yes, we'll get you through it. And don't stop answering and don't turn off your phone if you get stressed. We're here, to help you through the process. If you have any questions, if you have any concerns. I mean, I've taken phone calls at 10:30 at night. Yep. It's just, that's what we're here for. But it's very important that you don't stop communicating, or that you don't stop communicating with us.
Yep, we need you to talk to us, especially when we're in those pivotal moments. So, So as we go through this process, and we've worked with Katie, we have you pre-qualified. Now we get to the part where we really start looking. When you meet with me, when we get you all set up and ready to start looking, we go over expectations. So again, like, what kind of home do you need? Does it need to be a 3-bedroom? Could it be a 2-bedroom? Does it need to be close to downtown Ludington, per se? Or can it be out in the country where you have some more acreage? As we're going through this process and we know what you qualify for, we can then plug that into our multiple listing service, or the MLS, as a lot of people hear it slangily called, and we start plugging away looking at homes. But one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is every home, as we know, is unique. There are certain things in homes that might keep it from qualifying for certain loan types, especially if it's a fixer-upper that might only go for cash or conventional. But we do have a hot tip for Metro Mortgage on that.
Yeah, so just because a house is listed that it'll only go cash or conventional doesn't necessarily mean that it won't qualify for a different loan program. This is where, the lender and the realtor communicate constantly. We talk about what homes you want to go see. We talk about, what loan program it could potentially qualify for. And, we look at different things of, okay, I don't think it'll go FHA because of this, but...
could it be fixed?
Exactly.
Or could it, so that's another thing is certain things can be fixed or tailored quickly, either by the seller or by the buyer to make a home go FHA or VA. But and we can get into that once you start home searching with us later. So as we're going through, I'll just show you a few houses in the area that have sold. This was a listing of mine. We initially listed it for $198. It's an older home, Victorian style, 1,800 square foot. 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, had central AC. Some of the big setbacks of this home were animal damage. It had knob and tube wiring, which can be expensive, especially if you're rewiring the whole house, as well as the fuse box. The half bath on the main floor wasn't really private. You'd have to put in a very narrow door. And then there was no main floor primary. Though that might not sound like a big deal to some people, if you have anybody with mobility issues, that could be highly challenging. So this home, although it was a beautiful home, lots of incredible woodwork, because of the fixes and the structural obsolecences or things that would make it a little awkward, it just didn't quite go for as much as we had hoped. So it's still a fixer-upper. On the other hand, this home was right down the block, listed for $350, sold for $345. Biggest difference here is it was completely remodeled in 2015. It had more bedrooms, more square footage, a new garage roof, so that way you don't need to worry about leaks or damage. It could be a really big upside, and it did have a main level primary. So those kinds of things, even though it was right down the road, made it more desirable. That and the style of the home being brick tends to lend to being a little bit more valuable to people. Last one we'll go over, this is your classic fixer-upper. So this bad boy, again, 1910 was when it was built, traditional style, 1,500 square foot, only a half bath, which shows you're going to have to do some work, but it needed drywall. If you look at the top of that roof, you can see the staining and the light dipping, probably needs a roof replacement. The electrical, based on the photos I saw, was kind of unknown. Tough to say it was wired properly. And then the asbestos siding is something you would have to get remediated, which can be costly. So this one, though it was listed for $79,900, sounds like a great deal, sold for $60,000. Because of the updates that would need to be done, also that would take it from being FHA, VA back to conventional, possibly, or cash. Depending on the lender and the situation, it could go conventional, but it might be difficult. So something to consider as we're house hunting. All right, so for the fun part, again, we're setting expectations. Tell me what kind of home you need, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, ideally what kind of square footage you would have. As we're searching, some of these things may change. You might say, oh, I'd go for a smaller square footage if I had a bigger yard. All those things we kind of go through. Now, as we get ready to see a house, be mindful that this day and age, because inventory is so small, a lot of these homes are owner-occupied, which means we would need at least 24 hours before going to see the house to notify the seller. With that also, we just want to make sure we're going over everything prior. We have an open line of communication so we know what times work for you for showings. If you can't see something until later, we just openly communicate that. And as we're looking at the homes as well, be mindful not to make any negative comments while we're in there. You're not supposed to, but some people still have audio recordings in there, so we want to keep our comments to ourselves. Because if you like the house, we don't want to lose the opportunity just because we said, oh, that's an ugly painting. We don't need to go there. So eventually we'll make an offer. When we do, we'll go over value, what you think the home is worth, and go from there. Big deal. So if we work together and I'm your realtor, and I know you're out there scrolling through Zillow and Realtor.com, it's our new favorite social media, we get tempted to click schedule a tour when we're seeing those homes and we get excited. Something to know. When you click that schedule a tour button, that gets sent to a random realtor that has paid for leads on those websites. And a lot of the time, some of those realtors aren't even from the area. So if we've already been working together and, we have a fiduciary responsibility where I'm 100% working for you, we have a buyer's agency agreement, just make sure you call me. Likely I'll know more about the home than someone out of town, and we're already working together. So that's just a big deal because I know it happens often, and it can get hairy.
They don't. I mean, it's not something that you really think about, and if it's one of those things where if you don't know, you don't know.
Right. So it's just better to know.
Yep.
So we'll quickly go over what's in an offer. Obviously, the big ticket item, how much are you buying it for, the purchase price. Purchase terms, how are we buying it? What did you qualify for? Is it going to be conventional, FHA, VA, things like that?
Cash.
Yep, cash, right. Seller concessions. If you get a funding type or a loan type that requires you to have down payment assistance, we would then ask the seller to give us a little money towards that down payment, and that's something we go over when we write the offer. Home sale contingency, which is pretty common these days.
Yes.
If you own a house and you need to sell it to buy a house, that's where we put a little check mark by the home sale contingency area. Earnest money deposit. So with this one, it's a good faith, like a handshake agreement. Well, it's written in there, but it says, hey, we're going to put $1,000 down on this house, which would go towards your closing. What this means is if we were to back out for any reason other than a contingency or inspection, appraisal, if we're to back out the day before closing and say, you know what, we've done all the work, but we're just not interested anymore, you would then lose that money. And we can go over contingencies in another video because there's a lot to that, for sure. Fixtures and improvements, if there's furniture you like in there, or we want to make sure that a refrigerator comes with the house, we write it in. Inspection period, if you want to get home inspections done, we would write in how long you want to get those done. We'll go over that in a little bit. Closing date, when do you want to close by? When can we close by? Typically, I write in 45 days from the time of signing. It can happen sooner. And then possession, this is big if the home is occupied. If the person that owns the home needs to move out, either, they'll be ready right away, or they might need a little extra time. It could be, a week, 2 weeks, just depends on what we want to provide. All right, so again, with what we had said earlier with Katie, communication is a big deal. With this, we have to act quickly sometimes. If it's a great home in a great location and it's priced to sell, we need to make sure the phones are on, that we're responding to calls and texts. And we understand if you work and you can't respond right away. Absolutely. We do that all the time. But small client story, I had a client that had put an offer in on a piece of property, and he got so nervous about it that he shut his phone off the whole next day. And the seller had responded with a response saying, hey, I need to change this one term. Is that okay? And because he turned his phone off, I couldn't get a hold of him, and we lost the deal. So just keep your phone on. If you're stressed, call me. I'm a yoga meditation teacher. I am like the person to talk to in that situation.
The other thing is, too, is that, if you make an offer and then the seller comes back with a counter offer and your prequal letter, only goes up to X amount, and that's a little bit higher than your pre-qualification letter.
Mhm.
You know, it's important that the lender be able to get a hold of you as well to kind of go over, you know, any of the updated numbers just to make sure that you would still qualify, because, you know, maybe if we increase the purchase price, or decrease the seller concessions. I mean, that's why it's very important that the three of us, the borrower, the lender, and the realtor, all have that open communication at all times. And
big time.
with Metro too, nights, weekends, holidays. I mean, I had a customer actually yesterday ask me what our office hours are, what our business hours are.
Every hour.
That's
all
exactly
day.
what I told him.
Yeah.
I said, I mean, we have general office hours, but you need me at night, on the weekends, during a holiday. My cell phone is available to all of my borrowers. You call me, text me, and if I don't answer right then, I will get back to you as soon as possible.
It's nearly immediate. Just off personal experience.
Yes.
It's very, very, very quick.
So yes, open communication, key.
Big time. So now what happens when our offer is accepted? Oh my gosh, we wrote the offer. They said yes. It's amazing. So from there, we start the timeline. If we have put an inspection period in, we're going to call those inspectors to come in and run diagnostics on the home. More often than not, that's a home inspector. So they'll come in, test, you know, how quickly the water runs. If there's a light that doesn't turn on, are there smoke alarms? How's the wiring look? Are there walls that are damaged? Is the roof damaged? They go over and they give us this report that shows you all the little diagnostics of your home. Now, with that, I do advise, please, please, please schedule that home inspection when you can go to it, so that way you understand what they're writing in that report.
Right.
The reports, depending on who you go to, can be from 40 pages to 100 pages.
And if you're not familiar with that report, sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating because it could say something and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is a horrible thing. When actually it's very minor.
It's very minor. They can look scary. The reports can look scary, and it can be overwhelming. But
if you're there.
Right. If you're there, it's not a big deal. They might say the drawer in the kitchen is faulty, and it's because it doesn't sit on the track right. And so when you pull it out, it just kind of, you know. We all kind of have one of those where it flops.
Yeah.
That would show up in a home inspection. But in your daily life, you go, well, that's the junk drawer.
Exactly.
Not a big deal, right? So once we go through that, there's so many inspectors you can call for that, whether it's, you know, roof, foundation. If the home inspection comes up and says, hey, you might want to get your heating checked because I feel like the furnace is malfunctioning. We call them in, they come check it out. And then we move on to the next part, which is now we have the inspection findings, right? If we go through a home inspection and we find things that weren't apparent during the search or were not disclosed by the seller, that's when we can go in and say, hey, you know, the roof has issues. Can we have a discount on the home because we now have to pay for that?
Right.
That's where we get into your negotiating back and forth. That's my favorite part, besides showing you homes, is getting in there and getting you the best price possible, especially if we find anything we didn't know about. Huge, huge, huge. So once we go through, we have negotiations done, back and forth done, and we say, we like it. Let's go forward. That's when we tell Katie, hey, we're ready to officially apply for this loan and get the ball rolling.
Yep. So we don't normally send your file to my processing team, who would then order the appraisal, order the title work until after the home inspection period. Because you do have that period, which lists in the purchase agreement. You know, if you have normally, 10 days?
10 days is average.
Right. So normally, like, 10 days is average, as Raquel had just said, to have that home inspection done, because as a lender, we don't require a home inspection, but we do require the appraisal. So you have that 10 days to where if something doesn't come up or wasn't disclosed or comes up or wasn't
big deal,
right, you could at that point back out. So we're not going to order any of our services until after I get the green light, I get the thumbs up from my borrower, hey, home inspection came back, we're good to go.
Right, exactly.
So at that point, I would submit the file to my processing team, who reviews everything, might ask for a couple of more documents. The appraisal gets ordered, the title work gets ordered, and then we just kind of go through that process, making sure we have all of the documents. send it to my underwriters, once we get some of the documents back. So, but I would still be your primary point of contact. I just wanted to kind of go over like the back, side of it once it gets to that point.
Absolutely. And then as you're saying with the appraisal, we're just making sure the home is worth what we say we're going to pay for it.
Yep.
The lender is not going to give you a loan for something if it's overvalued, which is interesting. So as we go through the appraisal process, we order it. It takes a little bit of time to get that appraisal done.
Yep.
When we get that appraisal back, a few things can happen. It can come in overvalue, which means, let's say you were purchasing a house for $250 and the appraisal came back $275. Mm-hmm. You don't need to pay more for the house.
Right.
You've just received instant equity, which just means you got away with a little bit of a deal. It's kind of nice.
Yep.
It could come in back at the price, which is fantastic. It means we can move forward.
Yep.
The place where we end up having issues is when it comes back under value. So when that happens, if it's a small gap, typically the seller will say, okay, it's a few grand off. Let's just move forward with that purchase price because we're not going to make you overpay by a few grand for something that isn't worth that.
Yep.
That's fine.
Yep.
I have seen it come back where it comes in way under value by $15,000 or more dollars.
Rare, but it does. I mean, it does happen, and
It
it's something
happen.
that we are prepared for.
Right. It's something that and typically
Know
in
how
that
to handle.
instance, we usually have an idea that might happen. So we'll start discussing what does that really mean.
Right.
Back in 2020, when everyone was going bananas, paying hundreds of $1,000s over, what they were doing at that time was paying cash over appraised value.
Right.
So in the instance that it comes back way under, three options exist. You can ask for a new appraisal from a different appraiser if we feel it's completely off base, right?
Right.
Perhaps the appraiser's not from the area, so they don't understand the comps. Maybe there weren't any comparable properties and nothing is sold in that whole area. That can cause issues. We can either pay a little bit extra over that and meet the seller in the middle, which is not what I like to do, but depending on the house, if you really want it, you could do that absolutely. If it's just so drastically separated and we can't come to a good term, we would then just back out of the deal. You wouldn't lose your earnest money deposit. We would just say, hey, no hard feelings, good luck finding another buyer for the price you're asking. So that's the worst case scenario.
Right, and just Metro uses local appraisers, so
which is really nice.
We have a local appraiser pool.
Yes,
but yeah. So as far as like the mortgage goes, though, the purchase price, the loan amount would be based on the appraised value or the purchase or the purchase price, whatever they're selling it for, whichever's less.
Right.
So if you have a house that you're wanting to buy it for $100,000 and it comes in at 70, we would not be able to go up to that 100,000.
Right.
If it appraised at 70, so any difference there, if you guys met in the middle, would have to be cash.
It would have to be you bringing it to the closing table, right?
Correct. Yep. Because on the lending side, we wouldn't be able to, go up to that original purchase price.
Absolutely. Okay, so, well, after all that crazy banana stuff about appraisals, now, and it's come through, so let's say everything worked out.
I was just going to say, the appraisal came through and we're good to go.
And everything we did, we negotiated, we made it happen, boom, now what do? We're going to head to closing. It's very exciting time.
Yes.
Very, it's like the whole thing we do, right? So, as we're getting ready to go to closing, we have a period a few days before, whatever we put in the contract, that you can go through the home and take another walk through, check through, make sure nothing that was supposed to be left got taken, make sure, people haven't put holes in the walls or there's damage or something happens, right? A pipe burst because no one was there and now we have a fiasco. That's the worst case. I still have never come across that.
That actually happens.
But it happens. That's why we do walkthroughs.
That's why you do walkthroughs before closing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
very important.
We do the walkthrough. Maybe you go through and take measurements for the furniture you're going to order, but we're not going to open an account for it till 2 weeks after closing.
Please don't open new accounts during the loan process.
We're going to wait, right? But after we do that, we're going to schedule the closing where you can sit down and sign the papers and give you the keys. Now, just because we give you the keys doesn't mean the process is over.
Right.
First and foremost, make sure you switch your utilities to your name. It's going to be a big deal. You don't want to come in and then the electricity's off and you go, oh gosh, what do
I do?
What do I do? Right? So we try to compile that
Yes.
and get that to you way beforehand, so you're not messaging us like, 5 days later, oh my gosh, where's my natural gas bill? We don't like to do that.
Right.
Another thing I recommend too is when you get into a new space, brew your first cup of coffee or tea in the morning, that first day in the house, and just spend your time walking around the house, just pausing, take a little moment to admire the house, get familiar, because it's yours, right? We want to really integrate with that. Of course, you will likely receive a link from us to leave a review at some point in those last few days, because if you had a great experience, the best way we can serve more people and create that experience for others is through you expressing that experience.
Yep, referrals to friends and family, leaving a review, just kind of letting everybody know your experience and, how awesome we are.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Well, yeah, we are pretty cool. So, with that being said, we thank you so much for tuning into this or coming back to it if you didn't watch it as we were doing live. I am going to quickly show you both a spot where you can find resources for post-home maintenance, whether it's a painter, a designer, a concrete guy. I have them all on my website, the resources page. And then with Katie, too, as you're looking at this process, I'll make sure when we post this to link, her application area and their website so you can begin the whole thing.
Yes.
Which is exciting.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to working with everybody.
Absolutely. So. Yeah. I love meeting new people and chatting with new people and hearing everyone's stories, so never feel like you're hindering my day by getting a hold of us and chit-chatting and getting informed of the process.
That's what we're here for. That's why we do what we do.
That's super true. Yes. It's for people.
Yep.
It's like 80% people, 20% paperwork.
Exactly.
Or less, God,
it's not even paperwork anymore. It's all computer.
It's all computer.
Yeah.
It's actually 10% marketing like this video, 10% paperwork,
there you go,
computer work, and 80% getting to know you.
Yep.
So real quick, I'm going to click these so you guys can see the website, the resources page, which I actually already had up there. Oh gosh. Okay, so on my website, RaquelRayTheRealtor.com, you will find in the resources tab not only the preferred lenders, but you have inspection people. So if you need someone to do a survey, termite inspection, you need someone to do well and septic inspections, they're all listed here. So even as we're under contract, this is a great place to go. And then you have your home maintenance tab. Pure Marquette Painting Company is a fantastic paint company. But then you also have, lawn maintenance, your handyman, your concrete people, your construction people, roofing people. So definitely recommend checking that out if you've already bought a home and you're looking for resources, or, you're just preparing.
Yep.
All right. And then we have Metro Mortgage. This is your page.
That's me.
That's you. So we're going to scroll all the way down and find Miss Katie. There she is. And when you're ready, you can apply now. Yep. Now, if you don't want to do it through a computer, you can also use their app.
Yep. So we have a ProSnap app that you could download, or you could just start off by calling me, calling the office, calling my cell phone, just to kind of talk about the process, see what you're looking for, and then I can actually send you a link to our app, either text it to you or email it to you, and it's very simple. You just fill out the loan application, and then you can actually upload the documents right through our ProSnap app.
Super nice.
Or you can always email them to me. There's multiple different ways, or if you don't want to do any of that, call me and set up an appointment, and I'd be more than happy just to sit down and talk with you.
Bring you a stack and say, take this.
Yes.
Take it and do your good work.
Yep. That we can do as well.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining me today.
Well, yeah.
It was so fun.
Thanks. Yeah.
We had such a good brunch also. I might even eat some more because it's still here.
I will probably do the same.
Yeah. But second brunch. There's nothing wrong with second brunch, right?
Nope. Well, the first was breakfast. The second can be brunch.
Oh, right.
If you do that way, it sounds better.
That was my breakfast, so
See?
I think now it's definitely, that's actually the brunch.
All right.
Oh, look at all the videos. Oh, my gosh.
Thank you.
I love you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Did I click it?
No.
Is it done? I did click it. Yes, we want to end it.
And it has ended.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, goodness gracious.
That's cool.
Yeah. That's
We had one viewer.
That was me. That's okay, though, because I had to be on there in case anybody actually hopped on and asked questions.
No shit. Nobody. But I also recorded it
Okay, cool.
on this.